You're on the Womenpreneurs Radio Network. I'm Danette Moss, visionary business strategist and productivity consultant. And joining me today is Maureen Francisco. As an author of an award-winning book, It Takes Moxie, Off the Boat or Out of School to Making It Your Way in America, Maureen often speaks about what it takes to achieve one's dream. In addition to being an author, Maureen is an entrepreneur and co-owner of NW Productions, LLC, which produces reality shows, red carpet events, and live shows, including the pageant qualifier to Miss USA and Miss Teen USA for the states of Idaho, Montana, and Washington in association with the Miss Universe organization, a partnership of Donald J. Trump and NBCUniversal. Maureen has appeared on CBS's Power of 10 with Drew Carey and Fox's reality channel Solitary 3.0, as well as being featured in more than 100 media outlets from Forbes.com, The Huffington Post, Rachel Ray, The Talk, and more. As a former TV news anchor and reporter, Maureen had the opportunity to work for every major affiliate. Now, I'm so excited to have her here on our show. What excites me most about having Maureen here is that she has the love for empowering women. And, hey, that's what our topic here, our show is for, the Womenpreneurs Radio Network. And I'm just so excited to have her here on our show today. Welcome to the Womenpreneurs Radio Network. Maureen, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited about having you here and actually speaking on the topic of our discussion today. I tell you, Maureen, this topic is going to touch so many women, and I could say men, touch their lives because it's a topic that most of us run from, especially as entrepreneurs.
It is. It's because, especially if you're going to be working with your spouse, and it's something where you have to really communicate with your spouse because you're going to become business partners. So I'm really excited to dive into the conversation and for your listeners to decide whether they should work with their husbands or maybe that is something they should not do.
I tell you, it is. It's a serious situation. It's food for thought. Now, if you're just now joining us here on our show, today's topic is how to balance marriage and a business with your husband. Wow, what a strong topic, and the seriousness of this whole situation here. I tell you, I think that having this type of balance is so important because I'm sure you would agree, Maureen, this could make or break a marriage.
It can, and when David and I, that's my husband's name, made this decision, it was just a little bit more than a year ago. I was working at a startup company, and I would say I was probably one of the first 12 employees at the startup company. I was there for about 3 years. Then the Miss Universe organization asked David to take on another state, and that was the state of Montana. And he said, Maureen, I can't do this by myself. I need somebody like you, somebody who I can trust with these young ladies, someone who's a mentor, somebody with a media background to really promote what these contestants are all about. So obviously I was the natural fit. But then at the same time, I was thinking, wow, I really enjoy the startup company, and this is a brand-new marriage. We just got married for a couple of months. Do I take that leap of faith and work with him? After praying about it and looking at the opportunities, I decided, okay, I will be a co-state director with you along with a co-business owner of our company, and here we are working together for more than a year.
Wow. I mean, what an awesome journey. And the fact that you decided, first and foremost, to pray about it, because we all know in everything that we do, prayer is definitely necessary. But I must admit, Maureen, this would have been a big prayer for me. Lord, are you serious? Which direction do you really want me to go in?
I did really pray about this because I was thinking, okay, this is a very new marriage. Are we going to kill each other working together 24/7? I mean, this means we're going to see each other all the time. We have to communicate about business and then talk about personal stuff. am I going to have too much of my husband? That's what I was thinking as I was making this decision.
Wow. So that was a pivotal part for you. That was that determining factor. One, of course, after you prayed about it, you guys had to really sit down and talk more past just him saying, Maureen, I need your help. I can't do this alone. You didn't just sign up to help him. You signed up to be a co-business owner.
Yes, and I weighed the pros and also the challenges. And the pros is we get to dream big together and achieve those dreams. When we're at dinner, we get to talk about our dreams. There's never a boring conversation, so that's a great perk about working with your business partner who happens to be your husband. The challenge is, when do you turn off business and actually just talk about personal and court each other? So that's been the challenge, is because, for example, when we went on vacation several months ago, I couldn't help but talk about business. It just was lurking in my mind, and here I am thinking, wait a minute, maybe this is something I can table and wait until our vacation is over. But then I was thinking, who is the best person to strategize about business? It's with my husband, even though he's not my business partner, let's say. So that's the challenge I go back and forth is this an appropriate time to talk about this, or do I wait? But because he is also my business partner, I feel as though I need to talk to him at any time. And it, again, it's something that I'm constantly working on, trying to decide when do we shut it off and when do we not talk about business during a personal setting.
Now, you said your husband's name was David, correct?
Correct.
Now, has David ever said, Maureen, it's time to cut it off?
Oh, he tells me that all the time. When I have an idea that comes up at 11 o'clock at night, he says, Maureen, it's 11. It's 11. I know what's going to happen. You're going to be so excited about this idea, and then it's going to be past midnight before we actually go to bed. So, yes, he does tell me. And in the morning when I think of an idea, he's like, oh, my gosh, it's so early. Can we just wait a little bit until I get my coffee? So, yes, he does remind me.
So now, Maureen, what have you done? What advice or what tips could you share with someone like myself who would love to have my husband on my team, who's been retired since he was 46, who's now 53 now, and you want to share that vision, that dream with them. And if they were to agree to come on board, what advice or what tips could you offer to us on how we should shut it down? Would you advise us not to start right off in the morning time discussing certain things? What systems have you put in place to help you not frustrate David when it comes to what needs to be done at the start and at the close of business, in a nutshell, to shut things off, to take it into your personal mode?
Again, this has been a learning process for a year. We've been in business together for more than a year, so this wasn't something that I was able to solve in 24 hours. This has been a one-year learning process. And my advice to your listeners is the importance of communicating with your spouse/business partner. You have to have great communication skills. Now I know when I'm going to talk about business and strategize with David. I know when is the appropriate time. I also know when is not the time to talk about business. So again, it took about a year to really understand when I need to be a wife and when I need to be a business partner. The other thing that I would give advice to your listeners is you can do both. You can be a business partner and be married and have a very healthy marriage. It can happen with communication, having faith, and really taking the time out to shut things off. One of the things that we are working on is having a date night, one date night a week, where we can just learn about each other. And maybe we don't talk about business in those few hours, but really talk about other dreams that we have, as though we are courting each other as opposed to having a business meeting. You have to make that conscious effort. Otherwise, you're going to bleed business in all aspects of your life, and that is not healthy. The healthy thing to do is having that balance. When do you wear your business partner hat, and when do you wear your spouse hat?
Well, Maureen, as a co-business owner with your husband, how do you all come up with business decisions, and without making it personal? How do you deal with that?
And that is something, again, that's taking a year of learning and process, learning progress. And I know when David gives me a decision, it's something I should not take personally, because he is making a decision on what is the best for the business. And he knows when I make a business decision, I'm not doing anything personally attacking him or hurting him. It is what is best for the business. So again, it's that trust factor. We both trust each other where we're coming from. And secondly is the fact that we can communicate with each other and say, here is why I think we should do this. Here is why I believe we should look at this approach when it comes to marketing. Or perhaps this is my opinion on why I think we should hire a contractor for this position, and here's why. We are able to really communicate and give step-by-step examples to back up our answers. And again, this has been something we've been working on for a year. And I know when David makes a decision, there's no way he's making a decision that would hurt our personal life. There's absolutely no way, because at the end of the day, he's working hard for the family as well. So again, is that trust factor. And he knows when I make a decision, and it might be something that he needs to trust me, he knows I would never make a decision that would hurt us in our marriage as well. So again, is that constant trust, is that constant communication, and it's really knowing where that person's heart is, knowing, hey, I'm making these decisions based on what's best for the business, and it's not personal.
So, Maureen, again, as two co-owners or co-business owners, husband and wife team, definitely not a mom-and-pop operation. I mean, you guys work with, at Team USA. I mean, you work with a lot of big heavy hitters, Miss USA, the Donald Trump organization, all of these key things that you guys deal with. When we deal with last, final, who has the last say, had you guys sat down and decided on that? I mean, does one play more of a role as the president, vice president, even though you're co-business owners? Had you made a pad or discussed, if I can't reach you, David, and I need to make this decision, or does David, or which out of the two, who makes the last decision? Who has the last say?
We actually have equal partnership, and here's the thing. If he goes and says, okay, you know what, Maureen, you have influenced me, and I will go with your decision, I better execute. Otherwise, it's going to be a tougher conversation when I try to influence him in another decision that he is not sold on, and vice versa. If I decide to go, hey, David, I think your idea is actually better than mine, let's go with it, he knows he better execute as well. Otherwise, it's going to be tougher for him to try to influence me next time. So we're very careful when we try to influence each other that we actually follow through, because when we have these tough conversations, let's say marketing, and we say, you know what, we tried that marketing approach, David, based on your opinion, and it didn't work. So this time I think we should try this approach. And it's not fun when you hear someone say, hey, they did buy into my decision, but it did not work. So we're very careful about influencing each other, and whichever decision that we go with, we better execute on that decision. If it was David's opinion or recommendation, he knows he's going to be leading that project, and he wants to make sure that he executes well, and vice versa. So if there's a decision we're trying to decide, for example, we're looking to bring on a contractor to help us with finding quality contestants. And if I tell him I really like this particular person and here's why, and he might not be feeling the same thing, but he trusts my judgment, unless I bring this person on board and this person is not producing results, then I know next time I try to influence him on something, I better really cross my T's and dot my I's, because it's going to be a tougher conversation.
Well, it sounds like to me, when we go back to our topic title, How to Balance Marriage and a Business with Your Husband, you guys are utilizing the good old-fashioned thing that most of us still have to utilize, and that those two words, trust and communication. And that is what really takes us a long way, trust and communication. And the fact that you guys can really trust and communicate with each other, it's vital. It's priceless. And to top it off, David is around a lot of women. I know that they heard us speak on it in the beginning of our conversation when I read your bio. You guys work with beautiful women. Trust is one thing that I keep hearing you emphasize on, and that's one thing I love the fact that you're saying it, because it's so important. It's really real. How do you deal with that, Maureen? Have you ever been in a situation in this type of business where you've seen things that you trust David, but then you see some other things that may be kind of coming a little different? How is that form of communication with you guys? How do you all deal with that of, David, we may not have to keep this young lady on board, or David, I need you to talk with her and make sure her mindset is where it needs to be at in this arena, women wearing bathing suits, and all, and so forth. How is that for you within this type of field, in this business?
One thing I've learned about David, he is a man of character. So prior to us even being married or becoming business partners, his sphere of people around him keep telling me, man, this is a man of character. David has been part of the Miss Universe organization now for more than 10 years, and you are right. He is surrounded by beautiful women, attractive young women, and he always makes sure that he is not alone with any of these young women, that he has a team member with him. So when he actually brought me to Miss USA 2 years ago, it was the first time he's ever brought a female with him. So the other state directors knew that there is something serious with us if he were to bring a female with him to this meeting. And eventually we got married a few months ago. So again, David's reputation has been solid. He's just a man of character. Has there been instances where women have hit on him? Yeah. And actually, I've actually seen it, is because I have a different last name than his in the professional setting. Personally, we're both Van Marens. That's our last name. But in a professional setting, I go by Maureen Francisco. So people don't know that we are married, and I would actually just see it. These young women hit on him, and he has always been just so solid and has a very professional approach. He will not make sure he makes sure that he's never alone with any of these women. He always has a team member. And the majority of his team prior to me joining are women. And these are women of character, and they've worked together for many years. So, again, they've all spoken so well of David. And if these women speak so well of David, the parents speak so well of David, I know that David knows he's in a position of authority, and he has to be careful in that position. So, again, it's just the trust factor. I completely trust him, and vice versa. He completely trusts me, and that's very important in a marriage. With being business partners is just being able to trust each other, trusting your partner to know that they're making decisions that is healthy for the business, and also knowing that once business is turned off, and you are now just focused on your marriage, that you can just trust your spouse in your marriage as well. If he has late meetings, I totally trust where he's that, and vice versa. When I have late meetings, he knows I'm actually at a business meeting. So again, it's trust, it's communication, it's knowing that we have to answer to a higher power than us. It's somebody who is constantly watching us, and we have to answer to that higher power.
Wow, what a perfect blend and level of accountability. I really love it. Now, Maureen, you mentioned that you guys really just recently got married. How long have you guys been married?
We have been married for about a year and a half and business partners for about a year. So, again, it's a new marriage, and we've been business partners for a little bit more than a year.
Now, being in a new marriage and business partners a little over a year, how was the honeymoon time for you guys? Was there any postponing? Did you guys actually get a chance to take that on? Because I know men, I tell you, because we as women, we want that honeymoon time. Did you guys get a chance to do that, or how did you handle or deal with that?
We finally went on our honeymoon a couple of months ago. We actually postponed it for a good year because we were two very busy people when we met each other, and we had obligations and responsibility to our work. So we didn't have time until last December, and it was wonderful. It was a time where we finally got to really court each other and really get to know each other. So when we met, it was on a very business professional setting, and then shortly after we got engaged and then got married. And our story is very unique because we didn't move in together right away, even after we were married, because we were so busy. There was no time in the calendar to move in together. So we were actually living in two separate houses. It was when David's family found out that we weren't living together, when his dad said, you know what, you guys are married, and David, I don't care how busy you are the man of that house. You need to find a way for you and your spouse to move in together. So within one day, we moved in together. And again, this has been just a learning process. The marriage, being friends, being business partners, it's been an incredible journey, and I could not imagine doing it with anybody else but David. So it's been a lot of fun and just been a lot of growth for both of us.
Wow, that's awesome. So, Maureen, tell us a little about your book, It Takes Moxie.
I wrote the book a couple of years ago, and it was finally published January of 2013. The book is about people who are achieving their dreams and going after it. And oftentimes people tell me there are not as many opportunities in this country, in America. And I could not disagree more, because when I talk to immigrants who come to this country with just a few dollars in their lifetime, they go from coming from humble beginnings to being very successful. And I'm not just talking about financial success, but just being successful in their lives. And I also interviewed people from humble beginnings who are born in this country and somehow find a way to achieve their dreams. So I just want to remind people there are opportunities in this country, but it looks a lot like work. And when opportunities are given to you, you better take them. I interviewed Dr. Connie Mariano. She is the first military woman to become the White House doctor to 3 U.S. presidents. She was the White House doctor to President Clinton and both President Bush Jr. and President Bush Sr. I remember her telling me a story when she was at the White House. Because she's an immigrant and a woman, people thought she was the nurse and not the doctor. And during emergency situations at the White House, people would say, well, where is the doctor? When Dr. Connie was attending at this particular crisis, and she would say, I'm the doctor. So she had to really educate people what success looks like in their eyes, that a woman, an immigrant, can be very successful by being the White House doctor. And I tell people stories like that is because sometimes people look at themselves and say, well, because I didn't come from a wealthy family, I can't achieve my dreams. Or because I don't have supportive parents, I can't achieve my dreams. And I want to tell people, get rid of that victim mentality and really own your life. Your past does not have to dictate your future. And basically, this book is a good kick in the butt for people to stop feeling bad for themselves and start celebrating themselves. So that's what the book is about. Oftentimes, again, what we see in our environment, and let's say our environment is not great, we start believing this is all that we have. And I want people, when they read this book, to remember these people who came from very humble beginnings, who are able to achieve their dreams. The other person I interviewed, he's one of my friends. His name is Rich Cho, who is now the general manager of the Charlotte Bobcats. And Rich is an immigrant, and he wanted to do a safe career based on his parents' struggles being an immigrant to this country. So he became an engineer, and being an engineer is not an easy career. But it was in his late 20s, early 30s, when he realized, you know what, I have one life, and I really want to become an executive of a major sports franchise. So what he did was he researched on the internet on how to become an executive of a major sports franchise, and he realized that most people are either former players who take that leap into that career, or they are someone with a law degree. So Rich quit his job at a very respectable company, and he was making very good money. This was at Boeing. He was living near the Seattle area and moved to Southern California to pursue a law degree. And each summer, he'd move back to Seattle, where he slept on the floor of his brother's apartment, making minimum wage, and it was $4.80 an hour. And again, he has an engineering degree, pursuing his law degree, and he was an intern with the Seattle Supersonics. He didn't do that just for one summer, but all 3 summers while pursuing a law degree. And when he finally got his law degree on top of his engineering degree, there was still not a full-time position with the Seattle Supersonics. And what he did was he graciously took any job there, working part-time, and he told me he was a peon. He would get coffee for people. He would do anything the organization needed just to get his foot in the door. And eventually there was a full-time position, and he worked his way up within the organization. And when there was a full-time opportunity that came up, he became the first Asian American to be the general manager of a major sports franchise, and at that time it's the Portland Trail Blazers. And today he is the GM of the Charlotte Bobcats, who went into the playoffs. So again, reminding the people out there, regardless of your circumstances, if you come up with an action plan and really work hard, success will come.
Wow, what a true testament. So, Maureen, what's next for you? Any new books? Do you have any upcoming book signings, or what's next for your schedule? Will you be teaching or training other women how to operate in that arena of Miss USA and Miss Universe?
So we just ended the biggest telecast ever on NBCUniversal when it comes to the Miss USA pageant. It was a huge production. And now we are focusing on helping our teens. We have 3 teens who will be going to Miss Teen USA, and they're representing the states of Idaho, Montana, and Washington. So our focus now is to get them ready. And once that is over, that's going to take place in August at the Bahamas, we then start focusing on our state pageants. And we're at a point right now where we are producing these state pageants. We will have 8 live shows by the end of the year, and just a lot of paperwork and really preparing these young women who are competing at the local level with the hopes of one of them winning the state title, because when they win the state title, they then go to Miss USA. And again, we're focusing on these 8 shows for Idaho, Montana, and Washington. With each state, one gal will be going to Miss USA for 2015 and one gal for Miss Teen USA. So basically, there's never a boring day here at Northwest Productions. It's just heads down and really focusing on producing a great show.
Wow, what an awesome opportunity to one, encourage young ladies and young women to, reach for the stars and to help them understand that they can do it, and to help grace them and equip them so that they can operate with the tenacity needed
Oh,
to
yes,
operate in this level.
it is not easy, and I encourage any young women considering doing a pageant. It takes a lot of courage to stand up in front of hundreds of people and really pour your heart out there. You're going to be judged on your interview skills, on your evening gown, and you're going to be wearing a swimsuit, and there's no water nearby. That's not easy, and I know it takes a lot of courage to even go through the process.
So, Maureen, where can we find you? Give us your website, and how can we connect with you out in the social media world and so forth?
My website is maureenfrancisco.com, and that is spelled Maureen, Francisco, Francisco.com. You can find my book, It Takes Moxie, Off the Boat or Out of School to Making It Your Way in America, on Amazon. And I'm also on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter.
Wow. Well, Maureen, I'd like to thank you so much for joining us here on the Womenpreneurs Radio Network. And I love the twist, the direction that we took on today's show. I am a visionary business strategist and, of course, as I mentioned earlier, productivity consultant. But I'm a woman. I understand those other elements, and so I was excited about having you to come on the show to address this topic on working with your husband, being a business partner, and having, the wherewithal and to know how to balance, how to deal with this balancing act that we all need if we're in business with the love of our life, So I really do truly appreciate you for presenting this topic and allowing us to showcase you here on the Womenpreneurs Radio Network.
Well, thank you for having me, and I do hope your listeners take one thing away, and that is if they do want to work with their spouse, make sure that they can communicate effectively, and also there is a solid foundation of trust.
Thanks so much for that bit of advice and those tips there. Now, for those of you that would like to learn more about me, my name is Danette Moss. I'm your host here of the Womenpreneurs Radio Network, and I can be found out on the Association for Women Entrepreneurs as well as letstalkstrategies.com. I'm also available to connect with you on the social media sphere simply by my name, Danette Moss, and that's DANETTEMOSS. And we're here every Wednesday evening at 9 p.m., and that's the Eastern Standard Time. I'm here to help equip women with the things that they need, the tools that they need to move forward in business as well as personal development. I believe today's show was a blend, a hybrid, if we would call it, of personal as well as professional. And I really do, again, appreciate Maureen for stopping by and sharing this information with us and helping us to make sure that we have that balance in our marriage and that we, too, can be successful in running our businesses with our spouse. For now, make it a great evening. Take care, Maureen. Have a great day, dear heart.
Thanks, Danette, and I'll talk to you soon.